You were told that success brings happiness. Work hard, climb the ladder, buy the house, raise the family, and peace will follow. But what if the system that defines success was never designed to make you happy at all? Across America, people are living in bigger homes than ever before, driving expensive cars, and scrolling through endless feeds of success stories. Yet rates of depression and anxiety have tripled in the last 2 decades. Why? Because the American dream has quietly evolved from a promise of freedom into a psychological trap. It convinces you that fulfillment comes from accumulation, more money, more things, more milestones. But the brain adapts. Each victory fades faster than the last. What once felt like making it now feels strangely hollow. You are not broken for feeling empty. You are reacting exactly as psychology predicts when external rewards replace inner purpose. Before we dive deeper, take a second to support this channel, not for the algorithm, but for your own curiosity. If you enjoy understanding the hidden psychology behind modern life, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone chasing success yet feeling strangely lost. The silent crisis of having it all. You have everything you once prayed for. The job. The apartment with clean white walls. The steady paycheck that keeps your bills paid and your parents proud. From the outside, it looks perfect, the kind of life others scroll past and quietly envy. But when the noise stops, and the lights fade, something inside you whispers, "Is this all there is?" This quiet question is the beginning of a modern psychological epidemic, the silent emptiness that hides behind achievement. It is not laziness. It is not depression in its medical form. It is something deeper, a sense of emotional starvation in a world obsessed with appearances. Psychologists call it the achievement paradox. You spend years chasing goals, believing that reaching them will bring peace. But when you finally arrive, your brain quickly resets its baseline. The reward fades, and the void returns. This is not a flaw in your character, it is how the human brain evolved. Our ancestors survived by always wanting more food, more safety, more control. That drive kept them alive. But in the modern world, that same survival instinct has turned against us. You are no longer running from predators. You are running from the fear of being less successful, less desirable, less relevant. And that is the cruel genius of the modern dream. It sells you the illusion of fulfillment, while quietly deepening your hunger for validation. People who have it all often describe a strange disconnection, as if they are watching their own life through glass. A neuroscientist named Robert Sapolsky once described it as the treadmill of satisfaction. The harder you run, the faster it moves, and the more exhausted you feel. In therapy rooms across the country, highly functional adults confess the same secret: I should be happy, but I am not. They are not broken, they are trapped inside a psychological system that measures worth by output, not by authenticity. Social media makes this cycle worse. Every scroll is a comparison, every post a reminder that someone else seems to be living your dream, only better. Each time you see it, your brain releases a tiny drop of dopamine, the same chemical triggered by gambling or drugs. It feels good for a second, then disappears, leaving you wanting more. The result is a society that feels rich, but emotionally bankrupt. We are overworked, overstimulated, and underconnected. We perform happiness instead of feeling it. You were told that success equals peace. But peace has nothing to do with what you own. It begins when you stop mistaking comfort for meaning. The reward system hijack. There is a reason success feels addictive, and then strangely empty. It has nothing to do with greed, and everything to do with chemistry. Inside your brain, a small almond-shaped cluster called the nucleus accumbens works like a reward calculator. Every time you achieve something, a promotion, a compliment, a new follower, it releases a surge of dopamine, the chemical of anticipation and reward. It feels like joy, but it is not. Dopamine does not make you happy. It makes you chase happiness. This difference is what keeps billions of people running toward goals that never satisfy. You get a promotion, dopamine hits. You buy a new phone, dopamine hits. You post a picture and see likes, dopamine hits again. But each time, your brain adapts. The hit becomes weaker, the chase stronger. This is called hedonic adaptation. It is the biological reason more never feels like enough. In evolutionary terms, this was useful, it pushed early humans to survive and reproduce. But in modern life, it has become a psychological trap. Corporations, marketers, and social media platforms understand this mechanism better than most people understand themselves. They design products to trigger micro-rewards, small bursts of dopamine that keep you engaged, scrolling, buying, achieving. Every push notification, every limited time sale, every red badge on your phone, they are not accidents. They are psychological levers. In 2018, former Google design ethicist Tristan Harris said something chilling: if you are not paying for the product, you are the product. Your attention has become a commodity, traded in exchange for fleeting moments of pleasure. You might think you are chasing success, but success is chasing you, using your brain's reward system as their hook. Think about the pattern: you work for months to buy something expensive. For a few days, it feels amazing. Then the excitement fades, and your mind instantly seeks the next upgrade. This endless cycle of desire and dissatisfaction creates what psychologists call the progress illusion. You feel like you are moving forward, but emotionally, you are running in circles. And the cost? Your ability to feel genuine satisfaction weakens. Because the more your brain ties reward to external outcomes, the less it can generate joy from within. Freud once wrote that civilization demands the repression of instinct. In today's world, that instinct has been repackaged, not repressed, but redirected, toward consumption. We do not hunt for food anymore. We hunt for validation. Every billboard, every brand slogan, every influencer's smile whispers the same message: you are almost there. Just one more purchase. One more goal. One more step. But you never arrive. Because the reward system was never meant to bring peace, only pursuit. Maslow misunderstood. Most of us were taught about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that famous pyramid you saw in a psychology class or on a motivational poster. At the base, food, water, safety. Above that, love, belonging, self-esteem. And at the top, self-actualization, the state of becoming your truest self. It sounds simple. Fulfilling, even. But here's the catch: most people never make it to the top, not because they can't, but because society keeps them trapped in the middle. Abraham Maslow's theory wasn't meant to be a ladder of consumption. Yet modern culture twisted it into one. We confuse self-actualization with self-presentation. Instead of becoming who we are, we spend our lives curating how we appear. Maslow believed that once your basic needs are met, your focus naturally shifts toward purpose, creativity, authenticity, meaning. But somewhere along the way, meaning got replaced with metrics. Your worth is now measured in salaries, followers, and square footage. The tragedy? Even when people reach the top by society's standards, they often feel emptier than ever. Take Emma, for example. She worked her entire life to build the perfect resume: Ivy League degree, six-figure job, designer apartment. Her parents bragged about her. Her LinkedIn shined. But at night, she'd lie awake, scrolling through social media, watching strangers travel, paint, sing, live freely. She had everything she was told to want, but not what she truly needed. Emma's story isn't unique. It's the quiet anthem of a generation chasing fulfillment through validation. We are the most connected humans in history, yet lonelier than ever. Maslow once said, "What a man can be, he must be." He believed that every person has an inner calling, something beyond comfort or applause. But the modern dream suppresses that voice. It tells you that your identity is a checklist, not a journey. What's worse, the system rewards conformity. You are celebrated not for who you are, but for how efficiently you can play the game. The result: millions of people living lives that look full, but feel hollow. Maslow's pyramid was never about wealth or status, it was about evolution of consciousness. The highest human need is not luxury, it is meaning. It's waking up and knowing that your actions matter, that your existence has weight beyond the numbers on your paycheck. But here's the paradox: you can only climb that final step once you stop climbing for others. You reach self-actualization not by achieving more, but by wanting less, and by listening to the quiet truth beneath the noise. Because maybe the American dream isn't about owning more. Maybe it's about becoming whole. The story we were sold. From the moment you were born, the story began, whispered through advertisements, classrooms, and family conversations. Work hard. Get good grades. Go to college. Find a stable job. Buy a house. Start a family. Retire happy. It sounds noble. Predictable. Safe. But what if that story was never written for you, only about you? Their American dream was not born from human happiness. It was born from economic necessity. It was designed to keep the machine running, industries thriving, mortgages flowing, consumption never stopping. And the cruel genius of it all: it promised happiness while quietly teaching dependence. Think about it. You grow up watching commercials where success looks like a new car, a bigger home, or a smiling family at a backyard barbecue. You are told that satisfaction comes from having. So you spend your entire life chasing, collecting, upgrading, only to realize that every purchase comes with a new version of emptiness. The story never ends because it was never meant to. It is a treadmill disguised as a finish line. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill, the idea that no matter how much you achieve or acquire, your happiness eventually returns to the same baseline. You adapt. You want more. You run faster. And the finish line moves further away. This is why promotions lose their thrill after a few months. Why a new phone feels outdated the moment a new one is released. Why so many people feel restless even when everything looks perfect. The system feeds off dissatisfaction. It convinces you that contentment is laziness and that rest is a weakness. You are praised for productivity, not peace. For achievement, not awareness. But beneath that narrative is a quieter, more dangerous message, that your worth depends on your output. That if you stop striving, you stop mattering. This illusion is powerful because it mixes truth with deception. Yes, hard work can lead to success. But when success becomes survival, you stop living. Carl Jung once wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." That is what the American dream has become, a distraction from the deeper work of knowing yourself. It keeps you busy enough to never ask, who am I without the goals, without the titles, without the applause? And when you do ask that question, their whole story begins to unravel. Because suddenly, the dream no longer fits. You see through it. And that's where freedom begins, not in rebellion, but in awareness. To break free, you must rewrite the story, one that values presence over progress, being over becoming, and depth over display. Because the story we were sold was never about happiness. It was about keeping you asleep, while calling it success. The invisible cage. There is a kind of prison that does not need bars. It exists inside the mind, built from silent expectations, polished images, and quiet fears of not being enough. That is the invisible cage most people live in. You wake up each day and follow a routine that feels normal, even admirable. You answer emails, pay bills, smile at meetings, post pictures online. From the outside, it looks like control. But from the inside, it feels like containment. The walls of this cage are not made of metal, they are made of shoulds. I should be further by now. I should be happy. I should not complain. Each should is another bar. Each comparison, another lock. You see someone online who seems more successful, and suddenly your quiet contentment disappears. Your life becomes a scoreboard. Every choice becomes a competition. Psychologists describe this as social comparison theory, a mental loop where your self-worth rises and falls depending on how you measure up to others. But what happens when comparison becomes identity? When you no longer know what you want, only what you think you should want. That is the trap, the invisible cage of borrowed dreams. You are told you are free, but every part of your environment is designed to influence you. Advertisements shape your desires. Algorithms shape your attention. Social norms shape your choices. And after years of repetition, you start mistaking the shape of the cage for the shape of your own mind. Freedom becomes frightening. Stillness feels uncomfortable. You keep running because stopping means facing the emptiness that success cannot fill. Erich Fromm, the psychoanalyst, once said that modern humans escape the authority of the church only to fall into the authority of the market. We traded one master for another, and the new one is for more subtle. The modern master does not punish disobedience, it rewards conformity. You do not need to be forced to obey when you have been trained to want the same things everyone else wants. And here lies the darkest part of the American dream: you do not realize you are trapped because the cage is made of comfort. A stable income. A nice house. A predictable life. Comfort is the most effective prison ever built, because no one tries to escape it. But comfort and fulfillment are not the same. One keeps you safe, the other keeps you alive. The invisible cage whispers, "Stay still. You have enough." But your soul whispers, "Move. You were made for more." The real question is, whose voice will you listen to? The pursuit that consumes us. There is a moment in almost every overachiever's life when success turns into survival. It does not happen suddenly. It creeps in quietly, hidden beneath praise, promotions, and polite admiration. You start by chasing goals. Then, one day, you realize the goals are chasing you. You cannot rest, because rest feels like regression. You cannot pause, because someone might pass you. You cannot enjoy what you have, because there is always something else to reach for. This is not ambition. This is addiction, the addiction to progress. Psychologists call it the achievement trap, a pattern where people tie their entire self-worth to productivity and external validation. It feels noble, even disciplined, but at its core, it is driven by fear. Fear of being ordinary. Fear of losing status. Fear of becoming invisible. And society rewards this fear. You get applause for burnout. You get respect for exhaustion. You get admiration for being the one who never stops. But beneath that praise lies a brutal paradox: the more you chase meaning through achievement, the more meaning runs away from you. Sigmund Freud once wrote that humans are driven by two fundamental forces: the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. In the modern world, that has been replaced by something darker: the pursuit of success and the avoidance of failure. Every failure feels fatal. Every pause feels like death. So you keep running. You fill your calendar to silence your doubts. You drown uncertainty with busyness. You convince yourself that fulfillment will come after the next milestone, the next raise, the next recognition. But after never comes. It is a psychological mirage, the illusion of progress without peace. You achieve everything, yet feel nothing. Abraham Maslow once warned that self-actualization cannot be achieved through external means. Once your basic needs are met, food, shelter, safety, the next level of human fulfillment is not getting more, it is becoming more. And becoming requires stillness, reflection, vulnerability, everything the modern pursuit tries to erase. When you define your worth through success, failure becomes personal. It attacks not just your work, but your identity. That is why high achievers often collapse in silence. They are praised publicly but feel hollow privately. The pursuit consumes them not because they wanted too much, but because they forgot why they wanted it in the first place. At its core, the American dream teaches you to seek comfort in achievement rather than connection, in progress rather than presence. And in doing so, it keeps you running, endlessly, aimlessly, beautifully trapped. Because the pursuit does not end when you succeed. It ends only when you finally stop mistaking motion for meaning. The awakening. It usually begins in silence. Not a dramatic breakdown or some grand moment of revelation, just silence. One day, the noise of achievement fades long enough for you to hear what has been whispering underneath it all. Something feels off. You have everything you were told to want, yet it feels like wearing someone else's life. At first, you try to fix it with the same tools that built it. You set new goals. You upgrade your lifestyle. You chase new thrills. But the void only grows deeper. That is when the awakening begins. It is not about quitting your job, or moving to a cabin in the woods. It is about finally questioning the story that has been running your life. It is about asking, whose dream am I living? When you start asking that question, things change, not outside, but inside. The illusions lose power. The comparisons lose meaning. You start to see that happiness was never hiding in possessions, but in perception. Carl Jung described this moment as the confrontation with the self. It is the point when you stop chasing the image of who you think you should be and start meeting the person you truly are. And that meeting is not always gentle. You face your insecurities, your fears, the parts of you that you buried under success. But what you find beneath all of that is something purer, purpose. You realize that fulfillment is not found in climbing the ladder but in stepping off it long enough to ask where it is leaning. This is the moment when people rediscover curiosity. They pick up old hobbies, reconnect with people they lost touch with, or simply start journaling, not to achieve something, but to understand themselves. Psychologists say this is the transition from extrinsic motivation to intrinsic motivation. You stop doing things to prove your worth. You start doing them because they express your worth. That shift is everything. It does not make life easier, it makes it real. You stop chasing the endless more and start living the meaningful enough. The awakening is not loud or dramatic. It is subtle, quiet, and deeply personal. It happens in small moments, when you look around your home and realize you do not need more furniture to feel at peace, when you wake up and decide that your happiness cannot depend on a promotion, when you smile for no reason other than the feeling of being alive. And maybe that is the real dream, not the American dream, but the human dream. The dream of knowing yourself, freeing yourself, and learning that enough was never a limitation. It was the beginning of liberation. Redefining the dream. Maybe the problem was never the dream itself. Maybe the problem was what we were taught to dream about. For decades, society has defined success as accumulation of wealth, of status, of comfort. But real fulfillment has always been about alignment between what you do and who you truly are. The American dream promised happiness in exchange for hard work. But happiness cannot be earned, it must be experienced. It lives not in what you own, but in what you understand. Psychology calls this self-actualization, the highest level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It is when you stop living for approval and start living with awareness. When your choices no longer come from fear, but from authenticity. To reach that stage, you must redefine success in your own terms. Not the version written by corporations, not the one your parents or teachers repeated, but the one that fits your soul. That might mean less money, but more meaning. Fewer possessions, but deeper connections. Less certainty, but more truth. The irony is, once you stop chasing what others call success, you begin to attract the things that truly matter: creativity, peace, resilience, and joy. They were never gone, they were just buried beneath the noise. Redefining the dream is not rebellion. It is a reclamation. You are not rejecting the idea of ambition, you are freeing it from the chains of imitation. There is a quiet kind of power in doing what feels right, even when it looks small. In spending time with your children instead of staying late for one more project. In building something meaningful rather than something marketable. In choosing simplicity over spectacle. Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." That is what this journey leads to, not the end of striving, but the discovery of your why. Because the ultimate freedom is not financial. It is psychological. It is the ability to wake up in the morning and know that your life is your own, not a performance, not a checklist, but a choice. And maybe that is what the next generation's dream should be, not the American dream, but the authentic dream. A dream built on purpose, not pressure. Connection, not comparison. Being, not becoming. So if you ever feel lost in the race, stop. Look around. Breathe. Because the goal was never to have it all. It was to feel whole.